On another exciting episode of the Animation Deliberation podcast, we're swimming back up from under the sea to take a breath of fresh air that is The Little Mermaid and compare it to 1989's animated classic. Right after these ads, we have no control over.
Sing along if you know the words. Poor unfortunate
No, not
souls.
that one.
Oh, right. It's animation, deliberation, a conversation and a celebration of our favorite action animated series. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back to another episode of Animation Deliberation, the podcast where we take action animation and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. I'm your host, Suhara Lee, and joining us to talk about Little Mermaid today, she's got quite the repertoire. She is the owner of the Night and Day Studio, which you can find on Instagram. She is the co-creator of the Fantasy Heroes game, which has over 600 players around the world. And newly is now the host of Peeves Gabfest, which is a Harry Potter podcast that is a wonderful time to listen to. Introducing Sarah-Daye McDougal. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. So happy to be here.
I'm glad because you made it very clear that you were going to be the guest for this show. So we're glad that we made that work out.
It may or may not have been my favorite Disney movie growing up. And I may or may not have been a mermaid in a past life.
Definitely top 10 for animated Disney movies. I don't know if I have a particular order, but what are some of your like iconic, like I could watch this a million times over?
Disney specific?
Yeah. Like back in the day, like growing up
Mm-hmm.
Disney animated stuff.
Man, really all of them, but Mulan, Little Mermaid, Tarzan come to mind off the top of my head.
I'm gonna add Hercules to that list. Because
Okay.
that's arguably my favorite.
Okay. That is a good one. I love them all. I mean, you can't go wrong with a classic Disney film.
Yeah. And that's not even getting into all the options that is Pixar.
Yes.
But we are here to talk specifically about Little Mermaid. As everyone knows, there's this phase of Disney that's been going on for the last 5 to 10 years where they're taking these animated classics and making live action versions of them. Some of them have been bangers, some of them have been like one time watches, and some I still haven't gotten around to watching. Those are my three
Oof.
tiers for these live action remakes. Is I really enjoyed it, only watched it once, or still haven't gotten to it. Which that last one can obviously change. But currently, we're talking about Little Mermaid, which has been in theaters for 2 or 3 weeks at the time of this recording. Some of us have seen it multiple times, some of us have only seen it once. Actually, watching this movie was the first time going to a movie theater by myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because we were on a
Did you
timeline of
enjoy
needing to
it?
get this done. Yeah, it was actually fun. I didn't have to worry about meeting up with anybody. I got to eat at my own pace. I didn't only have to buy one ticket because I'm the guy that buys like everyone's tickets and they pay me back. But it's
Mhm.
the best way to get AMC points, and that gets me free tickets.
Free movies.
Yeah. So not having to worry about anybody else and just kind of chill and come back to my podcast to talk to was a nice experience. I might be doing that more often.
Good. I like doing stuff on my own. When my husband traveled for work earlier in our relationship for months at a time, so I got used to going to dinner and going to a movie on my own, and I was really proud of myself for that. And I really enjoy just having that me time.
I get carried away with dinner dates by myself because I'll always go to like a nice restaurant and they'll be like, "Oh, I want to go here for dessert," and then I'll like end up walking around like Virginia Beach or Norfolk for like hours on end, and then go, sit down somewhere and watch like whatever game is going on late at night. So
Yeah.
whenever I have a solo like dinner date, it's like a 5 hour debacle.
Wow, you really treat yourself.
Yeah, might as well. It's fun. All my personalities have a great time together. All right, so coming back to the movie, what did you think of this as an individual film before we get into the animated stuff?
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I loved it as an adaptation.
I did have I think I had like tempered expectations when I went in. Like I
Mhm.
wanted it to be good, but because not all of these remakes have been the best, I was just kind of like, we'll see
Low
what we
bar.
see.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of controversy and stuff going on with this one specifically, so I was
Mhm.
trying to keep that cloud at the door when I walked in, but I really did enjoy it. I thought they did a fantastic job with the music. I was singing along and tapping my toes throughout the whole thing. The actors did a pretty good job. I don't think that there was any like mind-blowing performances, but I enjoyed
Mm,
it. Like, it was above
mhm.
average, if that makes sense.
Yes, okay, I can agree with that. I did I was blown away my first viewing, and I went in I knew I was gonna do the podcast with you, so I wanted to make sure I saw it at least twice before we chatted about it. The first time I went in, not even worrying about the podcast, I just wanted to enjoy it as a movie, and I loved it. The second time I viewed it, knowing I needed to take mental notes, and I do have some critiques, but they're not a lot. They're few and far between. They're not very critical. I still enjoyed it as a movie. The changes didn't really bother me, and I thought it added a lot to the film.
Mhm.
And there's a few actually, there is one performance, and we'll get to it later on in our discussion, that blew me out of the water, and I'm excited to get your opinion on that since you said nothing really stood out to you because this one
I think we're
performance did.
thinking the same thing.
Okay, I'm excited to get into it.
I am actually, whose is it? Because I think we're thinking the same thing.
It's Jessica Alexander as Vanessa.
Oh, no, we are not thinking the same thing.
Okay, what were you thinking of?
I was thinking Aquafina. I had no idea that
Oh.
she was in this movie, so when Scuttle started talking, I
Oh,
was like, "Oh my
that's
god! I can't believe
Awkwafina.
it's
Yes.
her!"
Yes, I thought she was great as Scuttle. I thought Daveed Diggs was amazing as Sebastian. I thought Melissa was great as Ursula. I just had a lot of fun. I thought the cast was very well casted, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with you, no pun intended.
Yeah, a lot of those names that you mentioned, they really did do a great job. It was a really fun movie that I look forward to watching again. One of the so one of the big things I kind of want to just get out of the way is that one of the big controversies of this movie was the person that was casted. Like,
Yeah.
hey, the original Ariel looked this way. Why does she look this way now?
Yeah.
They didn't really address this in the presser, which they didn't have to either. At the end of the day, like if somebody has a role that, fits, that doesn't take away from the story and they're doing a fantastic job, like good on them. But the fact that they had all of Neptune's daughters from a different sea and had that daughter appropriate to the
Mhm.
area that they're from was really cool. And we
Mhm.
didn't get to see that until Ariel got her feet and she was interacting with like the other islanders. So the fact that this was like the Caribbean vibe, like when she was on her feet and mingling with everybody, like it fit. It was like, oh, she looks like everybody there. It made sense that this is why they casted this person because they were going for this particular culture that everything worked well within. And like all
Yeah.
of that made me so happy. Like, first off, I just like drums, so when they were just playing those island drums and stuff, like I got super excited.
Yes.
But
The setting was
seeing
fabulous.
why they made the choices that they did, I'm just like, good on you, Disney. That was very well done. And I don't think enough people appreciate that that's why that choice was made. Again, I don't think Disney like promoted it well enough to emphasize that because I had to tell people like, "Oh yeah, I really like this movie and I really appreciate it." "Oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't notice that. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't know that they were going to do that." So it's something that I wish that Disney from a promotional standpoint did more and I really appreciate it as I was watching the movie.
And I didn't really make that connection either until you just told me that. I did obviously notice that the 7 daughters of King Triton represented the different 7 seas,
Mhm.
and I thought that was a really great way to get some representation in there, and I hope that I would love a spinoff of the 7 sisters and cleaning up the sea and everything,
Yeah.
but I didn't make the connection that Ariel Sea, like her home sea, was the Caribbean setting. That was a really great point.
Yeah, and then when I was doing my homework to confirm this, somebody made the joke of like, "Oh, does that mean her mom is the Dead Sea?"
Oof.
It's like, "Oh, that's bad." And then if you
And
know
they
like just enough about Greek mythology, it's like, they don't all have the same mom.
Right, right,
Or just
right.
by looking at them you can tell that.
Well, and I mean, they do all refer to one singular mom, but Disney did release a photo of the 7 sisters in which sea they govern, and they're
Oh,
actually made up seas. They're not
yeah.
our real seas. Or they could just be what Atlantis names their seas, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if it was that or if it was like if you see like the older maps of the world from like when it
Sure.
used to be like one giant chunk of land and like how it looked when it split up. So I didn't do too much of a deep dive into that, but for the sake of why they casted people the way that they did, it
Mhm.
fit. Like I only have like this one tiny image of like what the world looks like and
Yep.
where they are on that, and
Yes, that's what
it
I
was
saw as
it was
well.
just really cool. Everything like made sense at that point, and I wish it just got more recognition.
Mhm. I really liked seeing I also really like that they had more to do in this story, in this film, than they did in the original cartoon, the sisters. Seeing them clean up the shipwreck instead of all just getting pretty in their room when they're talking about, oh, Ariel's in love.
Hmm.
I really love that they had more agency in this um, remake.
Yeah, because royalty goes one of two ways. Everyone is pampered and isolated and, stick to their circle, which is what Eric's family was trying to get him to do. Or it's people who are actually giving to their community and wanting to take care of their kingdom and have a sense of like duty and justice, which is what we got to
Yeah,
see out of the sisters because they're all princesses that care about the land that they govern and the home that they live in. So I do agree that it was really nice for them to have this care and appreciation. It's not like, oh, King Daddy's going to do all the work for us. They were just like,
right.
we have responsibilities to our home and we have to take care of this. And darn those, you know, feet people.
And I really like that the introduction to them is this coming together of the coral moon to
Hmm.
kind of catch up and have this like staff meeting of sorts.
Yeah.
And Ariel's missing from this meeting, and that's what sets us off into the film.
Yeah. On that point of what do they call it? The coral moon?
The coral moon.
Yeah. On that point of the coral moon, it's interesting. So I haven't had a chance to watch the animated movie again because it's just been a rough week. But as thinking back of watching this movie as a kid, I thought mermaids were just girls with fins that lived underwater, right?
Hmm.
So growing up and understanding like what mermaids and sirens are and how they
Hmm.
sit in mythology and knowing, we've seen it in Black Panther, we've seen it in Pirates of the Caribbean of
Hmm.
the mermaids like using the song to draw the people
Siren
in so that they can kill
song.
them in the water. So the fact that they talked about that at the
Yes.
beginning of the movie and like how they're actually hunting mermaids because they don't want to get drawn in and they're scared of the
Yes.
coral moon, like what if like Neptune's out to get us. So hearing all that dialogue, like I didn't even think about the fact it was like, oh, when Ariel was singing to Eric in the animated film, it wasn't just like a Bollywood moment of, I'm gonna
Yeah.
sing to this person at this point in time. It's like she has actual powers. She has this
Right.
enticing ability. So I didn't think about that as a kid,
And
and I'm watching this now, like, oh, this makes so much more sense
mhm,
now.
mhm. And something that I didn't catch on the first viewing, like, I was just so immersed in the first viewing, but on the second viewing, she actually heals him by singing to him after the
Hmm.
shipwreck, and that's what brings him back from being unconscious, and then that's why she has to give up the voice to Ursula, and I mean, it's a thread that's carried on throughout the whole film is the
Yeah.
siren song.
So beautiful. I
Mm,
that is one thing that I have to give this actor credit for. She had an incredible voice. Like when she spoke and sang, it
mhm.
was very, very beautiful. And comparing a little bit to the film, like just focusing on her a little bit, not watching the animated film beforehand, there was a lot of moments where I was like thinking back on the movie and comparing because I've watched it enough times as a kid that it was like I spotted
Yeah.
these moments. And one of the littlest things is when was it Scuttle? Yeah, when Scuttle was like something's different about you.
Yeah.
And the way that she was sitting and like her facial expressions of like pressing in her lips and nodding her head, like all of that was just on cue and so adorable.
Yes.
And I'm just like thinking back on the animated movie, just like wow, like these little moments, these little instances was just so well done. Like there's just
There's a lot of
it was
lines
great.
too that are very similar, especially with Sebastian. I thought David Diggs just brought him to life in this film. It was so great to see some of those callbacks, and he just nailed the lines like the OG Sebastian did. It
Hmm.
was like very the comedic relief was just on point.
God, his snarkiness is just so
Mhm.
wonderful. It's like, I went to school. I'm not meant to be a babysitter. I'm not going to pretend to
Yes.
do an accent right now, but all right. So you watched the animated movie more recently.
I do. I have 2 little girls, so that's
Does
it's a popular one around here. But I
so
also
forgive
love
my
it
ignorance
myself.
on this. Did Sebastian have like a
An
Caribbean,
accent?
Jamaican Islander
Yes.
accent? Okay, my child self thought that it was a French accent all this time. I don't know if it's because he had the little whiskers or because I just wasn't like
So there's a
knowledgeable
character
in it or
that's
not.
cut from this film, and it's the French chef.
That's right.
Mhm. And
Maybe I
he
just kept
was cut
hearing
from the
like
film. There's a
similarities
whole
there.
scene where he has Sebastian is trying to cook him, and Sebastian's trying to
Yeah.
escape, and it's like the can or something like that, a classic
Hmm.
French tune, that he's singing to.
Yeah, they took that out. They kept it as simple as Sebastian just being like in the crab cage. I mean, that dinner scene was where the whole using the fork as a comb happened too. So they
Mhm,
switched
the
that up. That was a big change
Dinglehopper
up.
and the Snarflat, mhm.
So it was one of those things where it's like I noticed those changes, but it didn't like take away from the experience at all.
Right, and that's why I said none of the changes bothered me, and I thought that they added so much more to the story. Eric having a backstory, characters that were cut or characters that were added, none of this bothered me because I thought it gave so much more to the background, and it gave these characters they were just much more well-rounded characters.
Hmm. Was Eric's first song at the beginning a new song?
It was.
Okay, I really like that.
Yes, I love his song, and they changed Fathoms Below, which is the opening of the cartoon. They moved it around,
Hmm.
and then so Scuttle obviously gets her new song, Eric gets a new song, and then Ariel has a second song.
Yeah.
Those were all added, and I thought that they were really well written. Of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote them, um, in conjunction with Alan Menken, I believe, and they fit so well with the film, with the rest of the songs, which is something that really stuck out to me because Speechless in Aladdin was added for Jasmine, and I love the song. I love what it stands for and the meaning behind it,
Dude, I almost
but
started
the way
crying at
it
that scene the first time.
sounds does not fit with the rest of the film, if that makes sense. So I really appreciated that these new songs did fit the vibe of the rest of the songs.
You mean you weren't focused on the fact that they got Thanos snapped in the middle of the music video?
And it's not even that, it's just the sound of the song just didn't fit the other songs to me. Like, it just stands out so much more, but these songs really blended a lot better.
Okay. I don't agree with that, but I can see where you're coming from.
I love the song. I do.
Yeah.
I love the song. It just really sticks out to me.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, all the songs that they added were wonderful, and that big change up where we got to see her in the market instead of having dinner
Mhm.
at the table, I think was really well done because as you've been saying on Peeves Gabfest a lot, montage. We got to see a lot of this stuff just happen in the liveliness of the moment instead of like a stale
Yes.
scene on the table where Sebastian like has to be the highlight. Like we got to focus on her and the experience and the culture and that little dance bit at the end where
Yes.
we got to see a little more of just like the liveliness of the area and also see how much Eric interacts with his community and with his people. He's as much as they're trying to keep him locked up in the kingdom, like the fact that he can comfortably be there and everyone be like, "Oh, my prince, welcome!" Like he
Yeah.
goes there every day was such a cool thing for both of those characters.
And this is something else that I appreciated with this one is that this gave Eric and Ariel something to bond over, their love
Hmm.
for adventure and uncharted waters, if you will. It gave them something to connect with, not just we're going to fall in love with each other's looks in 3 days.
Yeah,
They really bonded.
especially her not being able to talk and everything too. Like you really
Mhm.
needed those experiences.
Yeah. And the whole Eric has his own grotto in a sense, and she was showing him some of the things that he had and didn't even know.
Oh,
And
in
then
his
he was showing
office,
her yes, his
that
little
was such a
grotto.
good scene.
And then he's showing her the maps, and I just loved it so much.
Yeah, because she's so discouraged at this point too, because he comes in, it's kind of
Yes.
like, oh, that's not her when it actually
Mhm.
is. and I guess we can spare one carriage tomorrow.
Right.
But then
Oh,
just that
yeah.
whole little scene that, like,
And Grigsby helping set it up the whole time. That's what I'm
yeah.
saying. Everybody was just such a more well-rounded character in this one, and I just loved it.
So that being said, do you feel like that this was an upgrade to the animated film?
I might get a lot of hate for this, but I do like it better than the
Okay,
original animated film. I do
that's fair.
love it.
I mean, if you have 30 years to work on something, like, you would
Yeah.
hope that it's
Well,
better,
and
right?
there's the classics are always going to hit that nostalgia in
Hmm.
you, but as a story, this is just so good.
For sure. I don't want to get into the other ones too much, although ever since my first podcast, I've been wanting to do an episode that's just comparing all the animated stuff to all the live action stuff. But
Yeah.
one of the biggest problems with Lion King and the remake for that was that everything was too lifelike.
Hmm.
There wasn't too much reaction going on in the eyes, in the facial expressions. Like, you rely on the actors' tones, which in my opinion, didn't really land as high as I expected to, especially with the cast that they had. And I feel like they used that and corrected it for this film
Mhm.
because Sebastian Flounder and Scuttle all had like lots of animation and detail in their eyes. Like,
Mhm.
it wasn't natural to those animals, but it worked for what we needed from them with how lifelike they were trying to make it.
Right. Well, and they actually changed the species of crab that
Because people
Sebastian
were giving
is.
it heat for being like a land crab or something.
Yes. So because they were like because that type of crab that he is in the film is able to show more emotion
Hmm.
with just the way he that type of crab is built. So that's why they changed it to be that species of crab, even though he's technically not an underwater crab.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't never even knew like how crabs swam either. So those little paddles that he has on his
Mm,
butt that he kept like popping and moving around, I was
yeah.
like, oh, that's actually really cool.
And I really appreciated, like, when he would walk sideways
Yeah,
because in real life, when crabs walk like that, it creeps me out. And so I was like, "Yep, there it is. There's the walk. I
but
hate
like
it."
the best part about it is that every time he was being summoned, like he was trying to
I know.
avoid eye contact with Neptune, so he got to have like his inner dialogue and everything, and just kind of like look over me like, nope, nope, he's gonna get something out of me right now. I gotta behave myself.
I know that you're in Virginia Beach and Neptune is the big statue, but it's Triton.
Yes, sorry,
It's okay.
I'm going to
I forgive
continue to
you.
make that sense.
I'm here to correct you, don't worry.
I feel like Trident to this film. I don't like saying like Trident holding a trident.
I know. Triton holding a trident.
So can't imagine what he was named after. So King Trident to this movie was Jafar to Aladdin,
Mm,
where those animated characters were so well animated and had such dynamic facial expressions and were so expressive. We didn't get that from now.
mhm,
I think that was probably the biggest disappointment.
mhm.
Again, not detracting. I just had like I wish it's not that the actor did a bad job. It's just it
Right.
was
I
a
mean, it's
really
Javier
high
Bardem,
bar.
but and it's not even that. He is supposed to instill such fear in Ariel that she runs away,
Yeah.
and you just didn't get that from him, and it's wild to think that Javier Bardem couldn't do that because he's a brilliant actor, but it was like
Hmm.
he's not very scary right now, and he's very, like,
Yeah.
one tone, and he's supposed to be furious with her,
Yeah.
and that,
He's like slowly swimming up and shooting the cliffs, and it's kind of like it's like okay, you kind of like match that scene, but it's like when
I wouldn't even say you
Trident,
matched it. Yeah.
yeah, when Trident goes off, like you think that there's going to be like tsunamis hitting, right? It's like where did this
Yes.
freak storm come from? Like he should be causing a hurricane, like, and we're
Yes.
just
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
so yeah, I think that his performance was probably like the weakest.
A little lackluster,
Yeah,
unfortunately. Yeah.
yeah, because even in Aladdin, like Jafar's like you saw what the potential was towards the end of the film, but leading up to that, it's just kind of like this is what I was expecting. It was the same for the Sultan in Aladdin as well, where it's just like he's this short, stubby, like super animated dude, like hobbling when he goes
Sure.
over the place. And it's kind of like, okay, like you didn't have to do that like verbatim, but like give us a little more. Especially like you said, like we know that these actors are capable of it, so it's like
Yeah. Yeah, so
let them
you
loose.
wonder if it's because it's I mean, they were filming in water and maybe it's a directorial thing, who knows, but it was a little shocking, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. It's out and I still loved it.
yeah.
You guys, if you haven't heard, I loved it.
Did you love it?
I loved it.
You were talking about like it being underwater and stuff. I like how much detail actually went to their swimming motions and stuff too. Like it's not like
Mhm.
they had like these hard stops or anything. Like they actually had to like bring their arms out and like wave back and stuff. And when they
Yes.
were backpedaling, like actually incorporating the arms. So that detail and attention to how they were moving was really impressive on that part.
Yes, and if you have Instagram listeners, you should go follow Haley Bailey on Instagram because she's posted a few behind the scenes, and the, like, rigging and stuff that they were in is really fascinating to see,
Hmm.
and she did a lot of training for that hair flip too, the
Oh yeah,
iconic hair flip. Yeah, she was, like, with weights on her, like, forehead, it was amazing.
yeah.
Go
That
look
was
at her
one of those
Instagram.
scenes where it's like I felt like they just nailed it.
Nailed it.
There were certain times where she was singing when I was just kind of like, all right, dial it back. We get it. Like she was just kind of adding her whole flair to it. It's like I didn't hate him at the same time. It's kind of like, okay, I see
Yeah.
that you're trying to add your spin, but like calm down a little.
Yeah, her singing didn't bother me too much. And I think the first time that what you said just now hit me was in the very first time I saw the trailer because, of course, they
Hmm.
used part of your world and it
Yeah.
was different. And you were like, whoa, okay. All right, this is how it's going to be. Okay, I'm going into the film knowing
Yeah.
that she's going to have her own flair to these songs, which is fine. I mean, it's Jodie Benson has passed the dingle hopper to Haley Bailey.
Can we talk about how cute Max is?
Yes, we
I wanted to
can.
adopt him right away. He was so freaking cute.
Mhm.
Like I knew how this movie plays out, and I was still so terrified when he was on the ship. I was like, "Get that precious being off that ship now!"
Right, and Eric does save him in the film too, and Ariel witnesses it, but I love that she brings it back, that she has the compassion that Eric has the compassion,
Hmm.
and she even helps save Max, helps
Yeah,
him
because he
swim to
needed a
the
push.
boat, which was not in the animated film, and I love that she's there waiting to make sure all of the humans are safely in the lifeboat, and then, of course,
Hmm.
Eric is not, and that's when she goes to save him, and again, just adds so much depth to these characters.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful scene, especially when
I
she
know, I
was like in
cried.
the lifeboat
Yeah.
and she's like smells him, so she's like petting him and stuff, just hoping that nobody notices. But then
Yes.
like he recognizes her after on later. It's just like that's so
Yes.
cute.
Yes, good boy.
Such a good boy.
The goodest dog.
That he is. We haven't talked about Ursula much. What did you think about that?
So, I wanna preface this with I was spoiled because I did see The Little Mermaid on Broadway, and it was Sherry, and I forget her last name, so forgive me, Broadway fans, but she was phenomenal, and it's my favorite version of Poor Unfortunate Souls, which is my favorite villain song. That said, I thought Melissa knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I was trying not
I
to think too much on it, but it's when she came up, I totally forgot that it was her, and it took a while to be like, oh shit, yeah, it's Melissa McCarthy, and she did a really good job.
I will admit, I do like Melissa McCarthy as an actress. I will admit when she was cast first as Ursula, I had my hesitations.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they started teasing in the trailers and everything. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little better about it. And then, of course, I
Hmm.
saw the film and she just did such a good job personifying
Yeah.
Ursula and the intense craze that Ursula has. I thought she really nailed it.
I absolutely love Scuttle and Sebastian, but I think she had the best performance out of everybody.
I think I will have to agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of like compare because she had the most that she had to express, where it's like
Mhm.
Sebastian and Scuttle were kind of just themselves the whole time, but she had to do the flattery and the agony and the hatred
Yes.
and I think she nailed all of those.
Mhm.
And she
And
killed
as
one of the best songs from Disney classic days, so
yes, yes.
which funnily enough, the first time that I actually heard Jonas Brothers was when they did a cover of that during a Disney
Yes! I
break.
remember that too. It's on my I when I say Poor Unfortunate Souls is my favorite villain song, I have every version imaginable, and yes, the Jonas Brothers did a really great job as well.
That was so good, like, just the hype and rock that they put into it, I was like, "Who are these
Yes, it's
guys?"
so fun. Yes. But going back to Melissa as the best performance, not only did she have more range to have to fill, but it's also her. You mentioned Sebastian and Scuttle, but they're completely CGI, just voice acting. But she had to act with a completely CGI bottom,
Mhm.
and then human upper torso. And she had to interact. Like her tentacles almost had a mind of their own. So she had to be interacting with
It did,
10
she was
other.
yelling at them.
Yes. In addition to Flotsam and Jetsam. So I mean, she just I can't I don't have enough words of praise for her.
Yeah, I totally forgot about the eels until they came up. So, it was one of those things, like, when I saw it, the movie, like, the original
Mhm.
movie just popped into my head right away.
And a
So
very minor change, but I liked it, was that when they're in the original film, their eyes like combine and she is seeing in her crystal ball, but not communicating with Ariel. And I really liked that in the grotto scene after King Triton demolishes everything and she's crying. It is Ursula convincing Ariel to come see her instead of Flotsam and Jetsam. In the movies,
mhm,
they talk.
yeah,
In the original, I'm sorry, they talk. And in this one, it's her talking through their magic
yeah.
portal.
She was, like, spinning to or she was having them
Yeah.
spin to, like, make the orb.
Yes. And again, I thought she nailed that scene too. She was a
Yeah,
great
just
Ursula.
it's a delivery where it's like, "No, I'm not interested, go away." "Okay, wait a minute, yes."
Yes.
Just pop back in, it's like, "You thought I hung up.
Yes.
You hang up first. No, you hang up first." No, she did a really good job. I was actually wondering if, like, the tentacles had a mind of their own when she was yelling like, "No, not that one." I couldn't tell if it was just kind of like, like me talking to myself or if they actually had their own personality, just trying to get all
They
this. Where
definitely
is
had
it?
their own
Where did I put
personality,
that
and it
one?
was
And it was just, it was
great.
so much fun to watch.
Poor Unfortunate Souls does have some changes to it. Of course, they got rid of one verse, which was Ursula saying, men up there don't like a lot of blabber, and basically like use your body language and all that.
Hmm.
That whole verse is cut for obvious reasons, and I approve. However, I do wish they had just rewritten it because not using her voice, they could have written a whole new verse about her siren song
Hmm.
and not being able to use that because this is my favorite song and it's a whole verse shorter. But they did add when she's, come winds of the Caspian Sea, she adds amnesia to the spell, which was not in the original one, which is a change to the movie because Ariel knows in the cartoon that she has to get Prince Eric to kiss her. So Ursula adds this amnesia part to the song, which is part of her spell. So Ariel forgets that she has to have Prince Eric kiss her.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because that was bothering me throughout the whole movie. I was like, that was not part of the original. I do
It was
not.
not,
I don't think I have amnesia right now, but I don't remember there being amnesia in this. So when
which
she
is
said that line of like, "Oh, there's something about it," like she just blanked out. I was like, this was not in the years. Okay, so I feel very validated right now.
right. And it's another 2 points that it gives Ariel and Eric more of that connection because she's
Hmm.
not trying to get him to kiss her.
Yeah.
She just wants to bond with the human world and he's kind of her key to that. And they just end up falling for each other throughout their shared interests.
Hmm.
This also gives Sebastian and Flounder and Scuttle more agency because it's now their mission
Yeah.
because they know she has to get Prince Eric to kiss her and they have to do it without her knowing.
And with them being with their incredible performance that
Fish.
they had, like we definitely wanted more of them, or more
Yes,
dialogue
yes.
out of them.
Well, and they were pretty prominent in the animated version as well. But again, like I said, everybody just has more depth in this one.
Yeah. Somebody was actually sharing with me because I was telling somebody today. I was like, "Yeah, I gotta go home tonight to record on Little Mermaid," and they were like, "Are you going to talk about how Kiss the Girl had different lyrics?" And I was like, "I don't think I noticed that." And I hadn't gotten a chance because this was like an hour ago to look at the differences, but apparently, like, they didn't want Prince Eric to be like pushy and
Yeah.
aggressive in trying to get the kiss.
Yeah.
So that lines up with what you were sharing about Poor Unfortunate Souls, that this isn't like, it really is about it being a true love kiss, right? They're not like trying to be like over sexual and
Yeah.
like persuading the other person or being aggressive with the other person or anything like non-consensual. It's just a matter of
Yes.
like we're matching vibes, we're having a good time. This is a
Yeah.
connection that's being built up, and it's hats off to them that they're managing to make it happen in a day where
Yeah.
it's like I've been swiping for a couple of years now and nothing's
Oh.
come out of it. Oh, what a time.
And unlike Poor Unfortunate Souls, Kiss the Girl just changed the lines. So I was like,
Yeah.
why couldn't you do that with Poor Unfortunate Souls? But in the original, Sebastian's like, you don't have to say a word, just go for it, basically. And then in the new one, he's like, just ask her.
Yeah.
So it's just a change instead of eliminating a whole verse.
Yeah. Sha la 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 la, my oh my.
Mm-mm-mm.
It's
Looks
so
like the
good. That
boy's
song
too
never gets
shy.
old.
I mean, the whole movie is, and that's why I'm saying like the new songs are just as good, and I love them, and they fit so well.
And even at the beginning, like when he's trying to get like, oh my god, when Scuttle was singing, that was hilarious. He's just like, let me put on some mood music. I'm just like, oh stop. And then they cut to the
Yeah.
part where her just like, ah, ah, ah. It's like
Yes.
that had me dying. Oh my
Yeah,
god, that
which
was
is
so
a nod
funny.
to the
But
original too, which is fun. And then later on, like in the middle of the song, you see I think she's on the paddle at this point, and she
uh-huh.
like takes over the song, and Sebastian's like, "Shh." It's just
Yeah,
it's fun.
but
It's a
just
fun
the
movie.
way that they incorporated the nature and the environment that they were in to like make the natural sounds. Like I remember that scene. I know it's the beginning of the song, but it was beautiful how they interpreted it for live
Yes.
action.
Yes, I know. I loved it.
But yeah, when he was rowing the boat and like all three of them were just on that paddle coming like
Yes.
in and out, that had
It's
me
so
dying.
cute. It was so good. I just think they did such a good job adapting this one, and it's definitely my favorite live action adaptation of the Disney ones.
Hmm. I'd say it's up there with Aladdin.
Aladdin was good. That one
So
was really good.
does your tier system match mine where it's like loved it, only saw it once and still haven't seen it yet?
I've seen them all, so I can eliminate that tier.
So it's either top or bottom for you? Like top shelf or bottom shelf?
It's The Little Mermaid and all the rest of them.
Oh, okay.
I really, really love this one. I'd have to go back because if I'm going to choose what to watch, and it might be different when my girls are older, but I'm going to watch the OG original one, except for The Little Mermaid. I would probably choose the live action one.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, because I remember I've only seen Jungle Book once, and I was mad about it. I saw Lion King, and I was except for Timon and Pumbaa. I love their version of Lion Sleeps Tonight. The way that he
Hmm.
shrieks at the end, like, will always get me. That was a disappointment, but I really enjoyed Aladdin. I really enjoyed this. Maleficent was one I only saw once.
And I don't count that one. I mean, I do, but I forget too because it's the villain side instead. But I do love Maleficent, and that might be one that I would choose over the cartoon as well.
Okay. And then Beauty and the Beast was one I haven't seen yet. Not for
I
lack
like
of
it.
interest, I just haven't gotten around to it. I've been told that it's one I'm missing out on.
It is very good.
Are
But
there any
again, I
others?
I don't know. Now I'm conflicted because
Oh, I didn't like the new Mulan.
yeah, I would choose the cartoon over that only I mean, the songs and Mushu
Just wasn't even
primarily.
the same movie.
Yeah. I
Same
get
general
it, making it
premise,
more
but
realistic. I
it's
get
just
it,
meh.
but no, I really, some of those songs and I think I've talked to you about this before, but I know we're talking about The Little Mermaid, but that moment in Mulan, the cartoon, where she's making her decision and she's sitting on this statue chair and it's like this slow, sad music, and then you see her making the decision, and the music gets faster and heavier,
Mm-hmm.
and then it cuts into like this like hardcore music, and she's
Yeah.
cutting her hair, and she's pulling the sword. I cry
God,
every
that
time. It's
warrior
so
music's
good, and like
amazing.
I was so looking forward to seeing that put on to the live action, and of course
Yeah.
because the music's not there, so yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah. Hercules is definitely one that I want to see
I'm
in live
looking forward to
action, but
that.
again, it has a really high bar.
It does, yeah. Now
I
I mean, they have to be musicals from now on. No more
yeah.
non-musical ones.
Yeah. I forget the actor of Phil's name. Danny
Danny
DeVito.
DeVito?
Yeah, he's definitely got to reprise his role.
Absolutely. How can he not?
That would be amazing. And then there's the other one where it's like for Mulan, it's like it has to be Eddie Murphy, but he's just like wearing a dragon costume. He's not like doing a voice.
Right.
That'd be funny. Tarzan's
Yeah.
another one that would be cool to see live action, but again,
You
just
know,
high
and that
bar.
has to be a minute because they've made so many, live action Tarzans. Obviously not the
Watch
Disney
out for that
version, but
tree.
it's, that
That
one
was
would
George
be
of the
a
Jungle.
really that George showed the jungle.
Same
They've
thing.
got to wait a minute, I think, for Tarzan. But yes, I would love to see Tarzan. Beautiful music in that one too. It's the music that gets me, really.
Hmm. I'm drawing a blank on like other '90s movies that we could want to see. Quest for
Well, they're
Camelot
all
would be a
coming, I'm
fun one.
sure.
Quest for Camelot would be a fun one. Black Cauldron would be a cool one.
Yep. Cinderella was made. We didn't mention that one.
Did I
Honestly,
watch
that's
that
not really
one?
a story I like. I wouldn't watch either one of those.
Oh, because that was like a Maleficent sequel, right?
No, Cinderella is not Maleficent. That's Sleeping Beauty.
Right. I don't remember
But there is
Cinderella.
a
I just
Maleficent
don't think I
sequel.
ever watched. Okay, Cinderella's on the did not watch list.
Sorry. Helena Bonham Carter is the fairy godmother. I
Yeah,
think.
I don't even
Oh
remember
God,
that
who
one.
plays Galadriel in the Lord of the Rings?
Mm.
Anyway,
All the
she's.
listeners know that I am not the person that ever looks into anybody's names. I just stay immersed in the stories and enjoy that. If I
I'm
remember
usually
the
really
name,
good
that's
with
just
names,
bonus
but I'm
points for
drawing a
me.
blank on this one. Anyway, she's the evil stepmother. But yeah, I mean, going back to the Little Mermaid, it's definitely my favorite of the live actions, and I'm excited for it to come on to Disney Plus so I can watch it every day.
Because I call you or talk to you about it every day too, so it'll just be like, "Hey, what you doing?" Take a
Watching
guess.
mermaids.
Okay. While doing, just insert the blank. Insert the blank. Fill in the blank. Any other notes you got?
Yeah. So we talked about most of the film, and I said all of my notes, and now we can go to the later, climax of the film. And Eric's decision, I wrote my notes, listeners. I wrote my notes by song. By this order of the soundtrack. So Eric's decision is a beautiful number, and this is when he's, deciding that he's going to give up finding the girl. Oh, and another note: the reason why he's so gung ho on finding this girl is because of the siren song that she
Hmm.
sang in the beginning, which I didn't really connect that until the second viewing. But
Yeah, I did.
so this is when he's on the beach and he's running back up, and then he hears Vanessa
Hmm.
start to sing.
Bum bum bum.
And like I said in the beginning at the top of the episode, Jessica Alexander fucking killed this role. She's in the movie for 5 minutes maybe, and
Hmm.
I left the theater the first time going, I need to know who played Vanessa, because first of all, most of her lines are either ad-libbing, or not ad-libbing, but lip syncing to Haley Bailey's voice or Melissa McCarthy's voice.
Yeah,
And she only uses her own voice minimal. And she was great at that. Her facial expressions, especially when she's losing and right before, like when Ariel's turning back into a mermaid, this girl just emitted hate.
yeah,
And I can't wait to follow her career. I already followed her on Instagram because I said I need more of this girl. Her acting is phenomenal.
yeah. I couldn't
And
even tell you like which lines were hers, like trying to recollect it, but like like you said, her facial expressions and her matching up her
Lip syncing.
Lip syncing. Thank you. Her lip syncing was just so incredible. Like right off the bat, I was
Yes.
like, I can only imagine how many takes this took because it's really, really well done.
So she really knocked it out of the park, and just for the little bit that little bit of the movie that she was in, really sat with me for the rest of the day. And then, of course, she turns back into Ursula the Sea Witch. And I thought that this whole battle scene was really well done. I know a lot of people were complaining about how the movie was really dark, and especially this scene, it's really hard to see Ursula. But I thought that that really added to the fear because now
Hmm.
she's this giant sea witch and you can barely see what's going on. It's a huge storm, it's swirling around, but it looks like she has like gills on her face now, and it's really hard to tell because it's so dark, but I mean her face looks like it's wrinkly, not like old lady wrinkly, but I don't know. I just thought it was a really scary scene, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't take my my toddler to go because I think she would have nightmares now.
Yeah. And the transition of the smoke building up and everything under the water before she
Mhm.
fully transformed because she lost her little buddies. That was a
Yes, and I
cool
can't.
way to section off into. 'Cause like I said, when Trident, I have to stop saying Neptune. When Trident goes off, like the way that the weather reacted to Ursula is what we should have seen from Trident. So seeing
Yes.
that buildup of it, like her anger actually emitted from the ocean and spread up to the above the
Yes.
sea was something that we needed to see out of that. Like even if it was
You're
a
right.
quick cut to somebody on a boat and just seeing like thunder with the clear sky, like oh crap, like sorry Neptune, I won't do it again. Like a little bit of like something like that would have been epic. So it
Yeah.
was a good transition. It didn't bother me with it being dark at all because it really added to the intensity of
Yeah.
what they were going for.
And for the rest of it, with it being, I mean, they're underwater. This is a live action. It's supposed to be realistic. And when you're that deep underwater, it's going to be darker. And when Ariel
Hmm.
was on land, it was fine. It was bright and fine. But they did take, I can't remember if Flotsam and Jetsam get hit and destroyed and killed in the cartoon or not. But she does start to send that ink out and it covers her up. So
Hmm.
they took that right out. And there's so many parts just like that they took directly out of the animated film, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And not cheesy or anything, like, some of them have been a little cheesy, but they really did a good job.
I mean, the CGI on trying getting fried was pretty intense. I was like, good lord.
Yeah, yeah, I
I was
thought
like,
it was
did he actually
even
like die?
Sebastian and
Die?
Flounder, I had no problem with them. I thought everything looked really good.
Yeah. You mentioned that the detail that changed on Ursula's face. One of the things throughout the film that really impressed me was that they had like the mermaids had color to their skin that kind of like reflected and refracted. So it's like they had like just a small touch to make it look like they had some type of scale material that was like suitable for them being
Yes.
underwater that wasn't there when she got out. And it was
Yeah.
you just saw those little glimmers and shines, and I was like, that is a very
Yes.
subtle touch that I very much
I
appreciate.
loved that their tops were scales.
Yeah.
I loved it. You're right, that is such a brilliant design decision to make, that they all had different designs and designs that probably fit the sea that they belong to.
Hmm.
And like the little kids had more scales, and I just thought that was such a great design choice.
Yeah. Yeah, they really nailed it with this one. See what happens when you like
I
take
really
your
think so.
time and think about it. And granted, I feel
Yes.
like they've learned a lot from the movies that they've done leading up to now, but
Well, I'm
they're
glad Little
they're
Mermaid wasn't one
on
of
a
their
right
first ones
track.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
I
on the
think
right track.
so. I hope that the rest of the live action adaptations do as well as The Little Mermaid was.
Yeah.
Another big change to this final scene, or not big, but great change, is that Ariel is actually the one to impale Ursula instead and save Eric instead of Eric
Hmm.
impaling Ursula to save Ariel, who's actually stuck at the bottom of the tornado thing. So it was really nice to see that the hero is it's really nice to see that the hero of this film is Ariel.
And it was a good balance of first Eric saving her and then her returning the
Mhm.
favor.
Yeah, yeah.
Teamwork.
Well, she saved him twice, so Ariel wins.
We like balance. Um, I thought the wedding scene was really well done. We didn't talk about the
Yeah,
queen
and it's not
as much, and I thought her
yeah.
performance was really good.
Yeah, and again, just giving Eric a backstory and more agency.
Yeah.
But going back real quick to the wedding, it's not clear that they did get married in this one. In the original, of course, they get married, but in this one, it's more so they're setting out together to explore and
She was
set
wearing
up.
the ring, though.
Well, they could be just engaged, but
Okay.
the point is whether they're married or not is they're setting out on an adventure together and to you know fulfill both of their dreams.
Yeah. Because now they have a good guide.
Yes, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Neptune's just gonna, or Triton's gonna throw in a storm every now and then just to, like, fuck with his son-in-law.
Right.
Oh, and then the little figure that he gave her and actually said, "Oh, that's my Little Mermaid." I
Yes.
was like, "Oh, that was so." It took me a second. It took me a second to register that because I saw her turn around and I was so focused on her
On her.
reaction that the words didn't click to me. I was like, "That's cute." And then she gave it to her friends that don't have hands or opposable thumbs and are probably going to drop it and lose it somewhere in the ocean.
He's
Great
got
choice.
claws. He can clip onto it.
I'm proud of Disney for making this movie. They did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I really think they nailed this one.
I don't think I have a huge desire to watch it in theaters again, but not many movies do. But I will be very excited to watch it again with my changing
Yeah.
lights and
I
lovely
have plans to
sunset.
see it in theaters 2 more times. So,
Nice,
this will be the first movie in a very long time I've seen multiple times in the theater.
nice.
Yes.
Every time I think I'm going to do it, I just never get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, not even the Marvel movies I don't think I've gone to see multiple times.
Not even Harry
And we
Potter.
have to for points.
Not even Harry Potter.
I might have, but like I said, not in a long time. Probably in college, I might have seen movies multiple times in theaters, but something like
You got a
Avatar.
family now.
I knew these little tiny humans keep me busy.
So we need you guys to leave us all the 5-star reviews and follow all the coupon codes and make sure all those ads run so that we can finally make enough money to hire all the babysitters and do all the podcasting and not have to go to our actual jobs.
Yes. If we're hiring the babysitters, go subscribe to Peeves Gabfest then, because that will help me out over there.
Yeah,
Peeves is Gabfest.
if we have nothing left to talk about for Little Mermaid, do you want to tell everybody about your awesome show?
Peeves is Gabfest is a chapter by chapter, page to screen analysis of the Harry Potter series in preparation for the new Max show. We have 6 episodes, aka 6 chapters, out already, as well as an introduction to our 3 hosts, which is me, James, and Meegs. We are 3 Harry Potter fans, loving talking about Harry Potter and excited to see what the show can do and kind of not necessarily redeem because the movies were amazing, but expand upon.
Yeah. I am not one that reads books. I have not willingly done so since middle school. And aside from the Avatar books, they actually got me to read to the point where I finished
Yeah.
the first book in a couple of weeks. And now I'm just sitting waiting for these episodes to come out every week. So that is a testament to how phenomenal these hosts are and how wonderful the show has been so far. So please go give them a look. Whether you're a fan or not, you will become one.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to plug?
Go Hufflepuffs. Well, yeah, well let's plug fantasy since we're together on a podcast.
Go
Not that
for it.
it's like anytime soon for registration, but if you're into Marvel, Zuhair and I co-created Marvel. Well, we shouldn't say Marvel. We co-created Fantasy Heroes, which is based in the MCU, and it's basically a cross between the MCU and fantasy football. So you draft your team of heroes, and then Zuhair and I argue about which heroes get which points.
Yep. Sadly, this isn't automated yet. It does involve lots of deliberation. Believe it or not, I do it outside of the show as well. But it's a good time. This is year 3. We have over 600 players around the world. We have a Patreon that gives you access to a Discord. And it's actually where Sarah-Daye met a couple of her co hosts now. So it
Yes.
really has been a great community. It's been fun. We talk about stuff all outside of Marvel. We have nights where we just get on our Nintendo Switches and play games and just chill in the voice chat.
Yeah.
It's so much more than we ever could have asked for this.
Yeah, I mean, the Discord is really worth signing up for the Patreon
Yeah.
because it's just a lot of fun in there. And I mean, it's a really small group right now, which is really great. And we just have such a great time and such great conversations. And we have conversations about Harry Potter. We have conversations about Star Wars, about Avatar,
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. Yeah, all of the nerdy things that you love. So come on over, play Fantasy Heroes, and listen to Peeves Gabfest. You
Yeah.
already listened to Animation Deliberation.
All right, so if that's it, I'm just going to plug my co hosts. We have Andrew on Source Pages to talk about The Flash. We have Jay Scotty doing Bingers Assemble and Multiverse News. If I forgot something, please forgive me. I will be at AwesomeCon this weekend with 323 with Reed Murphy. It's going to be Friday night, June 16th at 6 o'clock. It's going to be a nerdy family feud, so it's going to be us up on stage versus the people. So if you want to give me a miserable time and then, buy me some dinner after, then come on by, check us out, say hey, would love to see some people.
That sounds like such a fun time.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And we're going to check out a baseball game while we're up there too. So that is it for us. Thank you for joining us, Sarah-Daye. Thank you all for listening. Be sure to tune in next time. That's TOONIN. And as always, stay whelmed.
Thanks for having me, Suhair.
Thank you for listening to the Animation Deliberation Podcast, a proud member of the Stranded Panda Network. If you would like to contact us, you can email animationdeliberationpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter @animationdelib1. For this and other great shows, you can visit strandedpanda.com or join the great community that is the Stranded Panda Chat Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/svchat. Tune in next time, and remember, stay whelmed.